Hi, my name's Art Martin. I'm a practitioner of what I call behavioral mind-body medicine. It's a new way of looking at things because basically what happened was in the 1970s I studied with a man by the name of Dr. John Diamond. And Diamond said, I'm an MD and I have to have a way to diagnose people effectively. And I says, well, after doing a couple of workshops with him, I says, I think you got the right idea. And he says, well, I've been testing it out. That's what these workshops are. The workshops are basically to use you people as guinea pigs to see if this really works. And what we found out, it really works. Because, see, here's the problem. People who do what they call applied kinesiology or medical kinesiology or whatever other kind, they all use the same thing, which is using muscle testing without really verifying the answer. And what I'll show you in this process is we can verify the answer through the subconscious mind. And that's where you want to get your answers from, is the subconscious mind. You do not want to get them from the conscious mind. People who are doing applied kinesiology and most of the other forms really don't know where their answers are coming from. Because the thing is, your conscious mind always wants to be right. So it's going to say whatever it thinks it needs to say to get the answer that it thinks you want. And so I watch people around the room even today, sitting there pumping people's arms and doing things, and they don't even balance out what needs to be balanced before you start doing kinesiology. And the biggest conflict I find is most of them don't want to listen to what I have to say, even though I got 35 years experience using this, but that's all right. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. But the main thing about this is you have to do 3 basic things before you start out. Because I can't ask you a question if you're not in your body. I can't ask you a question if your basic function of your mind is not there. And that's when you have the balance in the body, you have to balance the polarity. The polarity system is a very simple one. It was developed thousands of years ago by the Tibetans and the Chinese. It works very well. You'll get direct answers from the subconscious mind. And the thing is, the biggest problem we face is I'm having a really ongoing battle with the people in the Association for Energy Psychology right now because they try to tell me that I'm getting too involved in the thing and you really don't need to do that. Well, they wanted to know if I had a peer-reviewed study on my work to show whether it really worked or not. I says, where's your peer-reviewed study? Well, they don't have one either because the Association for Psychology turned them down. Said, we don't believe your system works. And so now I have a chance to submit a paper this next month to be peer-reviewed by the people in the Association for Psychology. And so we'll see what happens. I told them I'm willing to go up there and present my work. Anybody show me it, I'll be there and I'll show you how it works. So anyway, without that, let's get going. The main thing we look at in this thing is what we want to do is we want to find out what you really are thinking at a subconscious level. I'm not interested in what you're thinking at a conscious level because your conscious mind won't give us the right answer. I'll demonstrate that with you in a short time. But I always look at this work when I tell people, what do you have in your life right now that you don't want, that you would like to get rid of? What is it? What's causing trouble for you in your life right now? What's the big problem you're facing in your life right now? And they all look at it and they'll say, well, this and this and this and this. I said, do you know the cause? Well, not really. I said, well, would you like to find the cause? I will find the cause for you. And I've had a lot of people in all the different kinds of programs out there. There's so many alphabet theories out there called EFT and TFT and all the rest of them. But do they really work? I have yet to find somebody that can do that work and get results every time. I've been put up before a group that wanted me to do a double-blind test. Are you going to get the same answer with 10 different people? Or are you going to get the same results with 10 different people? I have done that. So the thing is, I'm coming out of the woods now, kind of getting a little bit more out there with the basic societies out there in psychology and stuff, and they're not really willing to accept me yet, but it will happen. So anyway, let's look at this thing. If anybody in here, in this room, thinks they are loving themselves, their polarities bounce, they're in their body, I will do something kind of interesting. Those 3 questions is all I'm asking. You see that right there? That's a real $100 bill. If those 3 things, anybody in this room has those 3 things balanced, I will give you this $100 bill. No problem. But you know something? I'm not sure I'm going to find somebody. I haven't in the last 15 years, but maybe there will be. And so what I want to do is basically do some testing about this, because where did I come from and how did I get where I am? Well, you're looking at somebody that 35 years ago could no more stand up like this than fly. I had 25 years of crucial, critical, chronic back pain. I mean, it was big time back pain. And it was really tough. And everybody said, well, we'll show you the way out. We got the way for you. And I said, okay, I'm open. How much is it going to cost me? Well, this. I says, how about a guarantee? Do you have any guarantee that will, if you can't do it, that I get my money back? Oh, no. No, we don't do that. Well, I spent 10 years going to seminars, going to people's therapy work, and nobody could get the pain out of my back. Everybody said they could, nobody did it. And so I said, well, I guess I'll have to find my own way. So I started studying everything I could study. Then a thing happened in 1982, which was kind of a deja vu experience. I looked at my computer that I just bought. Didn't know how to work it yet, but I looked at it, and I said, that Apple II computer, that's my mind. That's how my mind works. So I proceeded at that point to try to figure out how this computer in us works. And the way I did it was to work with people. I said, bring me your problem, and I'll try to find out what it is. And of course, they did. And of course, in 1984, a woman came to a lecture I did on hands-on healing. At that time, I believed there was such thing as hands-on healing. I don't anymore. But anyway, what happened was, she said, I got 4 lumbars in my back, tied together with stainless steel wire. They took the 4 discs out. Now, I'm ready to commit suicide. The pain is so critical that I can't handle it any longer. I says, I hope you're not putting that on me, that if I don't get you healed up, that you're going to commit suicide. She says, I wouldn't blame you on you if you did it, but I hope you can do it. So I proceeded to look at what her problem was by using muscle testing, asking the questions. Very, very different than what I'm doing now, but at least I was able to ask questions. I found out that when she was born, her parents were lifers in the Air Force. They'd been in it for 16 years. They were 36 years old. They didn't want any children. She was just something in their life that they didn't want at all. So what happened? She got rejected and abandoned and everything else. Well, the stuff that causes back pain is rejection and abandonment. Every time. I find it's been over the last 30 some odd years now, it's proven out to be every time back pain's caused by rejection and abandonment. And what it does, the rejection and abandonment ties up those long push-pull muscles that are on both sides of your spine. And they shrink. And pretty soon they shrink enough so they start putting pressure on the nerve endings. And that was what was happening with me. And that was what was happening with her too. But the only trouble is, she didn't know it. I just found it out. And so I said, well, let's remove it. She says, how do you plan to do that? I says, well, about a year ago, I worked with a guy. At this time, I was still doing conventional talk psychology. And I worked with a guy, and I said he had a problem with women. And all I did is put my hand on his back, and I found out what was happening, that he had trouble with his mother. And I found out that all I had to do was put the hand on the back and say, Dave, all you got to do is say, I'm loving and forgiving my mother, and I realized she was mean to me, she abused me, but I'm loving and forgiving her and releasing her now. The pain went away in his back. Disappeared, just like that. And he says, I think you found something. And I says, yeah, I did. So I did kind of minor stuff like that until this lady came in 1984. And as I started working with her, I got rid of all the pain in her shoulders and her back. Fibromyalgia is nothing more than anger and resentment that ties up the muscles. And as it starts tying them up, the nerve endings get tied up, and they get tighter and tighter and tighter until they get so tight that you can't hardly move. Now, that's easy to clear, but I didn't know that at the time. But anyway, I cleared it for her and everything else. The following day, she got in an automobile accident. And I said, what did you do that for? She said, I didn't do it. I wasn't driving. And I says, okay, well, if you go to the doctor for an insurance physical, don't let them manipulate your body at all, because I think we've gotten the pain out. Well, she got the x-ray back the following day and purred near crawled through the telephone. She says, can you believe this? There was stainless steel wires, you remember, tying my vertebrae together. There was 4 discs that were removed. They're gone. The discs are back in. She says, the wire is gone. What do you make of that? I says, I really don't know. Because this is the first time that's ever happened to me. Well, what happened after that was that changed my whole practice. No more talk therapy. It was all hands-on after that. So what I did was I would ask people to come and see me, and we would find out what the causes were that were blocking them from getting where they wanted to go, what was causing them the pain in their body. And then we would do another thing at that time, I called it cellular memory release. And I kept that same name. I still use it, cellular memory release, and that's one of the biggest part of my work now. Because once we get you in control of your mind, then we can start working on that. Now, a lot of these people out here, in here, everywhere, therapists, they get out there and first thing they do is start thumping on the body or trying to make things work. And what they're doing basically is not working on you, they're working on a false self, or even as far as that goes, a shadow self. Now, they're not working on, if you say, we take a name up, it was Judy. Judy came to see me, and I said, okay, let's work here. And she said, okay, how are you going to do it? And I told her, she said, I got to read all those affirmations? I says, what we're going to do is get you in control of your mind. Just check and see how much control you have. I checked. She had 15% control of her mind. So if you got 15% control, you're not going to get much accomplished. So I says, okay, let's read these affirmations. Well, at that time, I didn't have as many affirmations as I do now. But what happened was I was able to find out what was the problem, get her back in control of her life. And when we had finished doing all the affirmations, there's only 13 of them. When we finished doing them, I checked to see how much control she had. 100% control. She said, how could it be 100%? I only had 15% before. I said, you just eliminated all the saboteurs in your mind that are causing you to fall back, that are causing trouble for you. And at that time, I didn't know that much about multiple personalities, because multiple personalities are a big saboteur too. And what I found out was, because being a psychologist, I said, that's really not my area of work. That's the psychiatrist when we're dealing with multiple personalities. Well, one of my practitioners up in Toronto, Canada said, no, it isn't. We're going to have to get in contact with it. You're coming up here in about a month. I want you to make a full day available for us to work on this, because I'll bet you both of us are full of multiple personalities. And the thing is, I'm finding in some of my clients now. So we did. I found I had 7, and she had 6. So we cleared the multiple personalities out. We got them all out and everything else. And that was another step in the process that I learned from one of my practitioners. So now we've learned what we have to do is not only have to go first, get the polarity balance in the body, and get the multiple personalities out. Once we get them out, then we've got to go and start taking all the saboteurs out. Once we get all the saboteurs out, then we got to get the person back in. Because what we're going to do, the way I do, we say dialogues. My affirmations are not really affirmations; they're dialogues. Okay, and so we dialogue with the body. Do you believe the power of the word? I just couldn't believe the power of the word. You tell your mind what you want to do, and if you're doing it in a reasonable way, it will do it for you. It is wild. I didn't realize that, but boy, you start telling it what you want to do, and literally it will do it for you. And the thing is, you have to have the right words, you have to phrase them the right way, and you have to be committed to doing it. In other words, some of these affirmations are going to have to be said over multiple times, because you're going to find that they'll sometimes slip back out, slip back in, and stuff like that. But the way I'm reading them now, the way I'm doing them now, most of the time you don't have to read most of them over again. There's only a couple you have to read over again. Now, here's another thing. If you look at it, how much money do you have in your life? Enough? You have the kind of money you want in your life? I did 5 lectures in 2007, or 2007, in Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, and here in San Francisco at the Whole Life Expo, no less. And every one of those lectures, I asked people, are you entitled to money? Do this affirmation. Not one single person was entitled to money. I had 175 people in my lecture in New York, and I couldn't find one person. But I had them read the affirmation about being entitled to money, and I checked the same 20 people I checked before. Every single one of them was entitled to money. That's the power of the word. So the thing is, you have to realize that you can change your whole life by using voice dialogue. And that's part of what I call my work now. I've got more things added to it. Like I say, when I discovered psychoneuroimmunology, I said, that is really something. The medical profession, medical science won't accept it. They don't want to believe that by negative thought forms, just negative thought forms, or negative talk, your body can change immediately. And the thing is, they did a whole bunch of tests at Purdue University back in 1994 finally, and they found out that Robert Adler, who's a professor at Syracuse University, who found this in 1974, no less. 20 years earlier, he's been trying to tell people that this is what happens. Now, here's a doctor trying to tell them what happens. They still wouldn't buy it. So finally, Purdue University finally put a department to check this. They found out by putting people in a closed-in room, where there's no sound coming in, have somebody come in and verbally beat somebody up. I mean, verbally just beat the living daylights out of them. And they were watching on the instruments they were using, which were on the other side of the wall, outside the room, the person's vitality, the person's energy, everything else was just going whoomp, just dropped way down. And so here it is, showing up on medical instruments, showing that negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative attitudes, negative beliefs will destroy your life. Now, how do you get out of that one? Well, we have to find out what they are, because they're locked into the subconscious mind, basically, so we just go and release them with an affirmation or a dialogue and take them out. See, the thing that's interesting about it is when you look at what happened to me, I died in 1945. I was dead for 21 minutes, no vital signs. They told my mother that he's probably going to have learning disabilities and maybe even brain damage. And I said, well, I didn't say it because I was only 8 years old, but my mother said, well, we'll see what happens. So I walked out of the hospital after being in a coma for 6 days, perfectly healed. So, things do happen. But the thing is, what you want to know is, why do these things happen? Why do we have miracles happen to people? They happen for one reason and one reason only. Because you believe it. Because you accept it. I fortunately didn't I was going to do it, and I forgot the paper that I had on placebo effect. I've written a whole paper on placebo effect, which I believe now placebo effect is the main healing process. I don't believe that anybody can heal anybody. I only believe that if you believe the person, believe the product, believe who they are, and believe what they're doing, they'll heal themselves. And I'll give you a reason why I believe this. Here's what happens. I have a man who I've worked with, and he's got diabetes. Super, really bad diabetes. And so anyway, what I do is I check with him and find out that actually the diabetes started when he was 16 years old. His mother disappeared. But what his father did was marry a really great mother for him who took care of him, gave him a whole functional way of life, so it just stopped the diabetes from happening. But what happened, it left it in his mind as a seed. So the next time he encountered the same experience, that seed would sprout. It sprouted 40 years later. 1956. He was 56. And what happened was his wife came in to the house one day and says, "Okay, Ray, are you going to go to church with me on Sunday?" He says, "Why are you asking that?" "Because I think you need to do that." He says, "Well, I don't really go for churches that much anymore. And she says, well, she says, I found the Savior. It was a fundamentalist church. And he says, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your life. Don't try to tell me how to run my life. I'm all right the way I am. I like it the way I am. She says, well, you're involved with those occult people. And he says, oh, come on, get serious. They aren't occult people. And so the next week she comes home and she says, well, if you don't come to church and accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, I'm divorcing you. And he says, boy, that's kind of crazy. What are you so hung up on that for? She says, you'll see. So the following week she divorced him. 2 weeks later, the diabetes came roaring in like crazy. He had to carry an insulin pump around with him because the blood sugar was 400. This happened in 2 weeks. That's what type 2 diabetes is. It's a sprout of a seed from a prior time. So, do you think people believe me about this? I don't know. I haven't got many, except the people that I've cleared the type 2 diabetes. He calls me up about a week, 2 weeks later and says, the diabetes is gone completely. The doctor even verified it. And I said, well, I'm glad you got rid of the diabetes. But what was funny was about a year later he calls me and he says, I just crushed my foot with a 400-pound piece of iron. And he says, there's 26 bone fragments. And they want to amputate my foot. I said, don't let them do it. I'll work with you on Saturday. And he says, well, okay. So Saturday I worked with him. I had one of my practitioners come over and see with me, and I was his proxy. I was basically the surrogate for him, because I knew who he was. So I did it. We worked on him for 2 hours. I didn't hear anything from him until Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon he called me, and he said, I don't understand what you're doing, guy. This is crazy. But he says, there is no bone fragments, there's no fracture. They're letting me out of the hospital tomorrow without even put a cast on my leg. Now, how did that happen? I says, you did it. He said, what do you mean I did it? I just supplied the know-how to do it, and you did it. That proved to me at that point that all healing is placebo effect. The thing is, you can look website and cross website, and these people take credit for doing miraculous healing with people. They aren't doing it. The person's doing it. I don't take credit for that anymore. In fact, it was crazy. Talk about what? I had a license plate on my car that said healer. When I sold that car, I let the license plate go with it. So, what was your question?
What happened in that interaction with the foot healing?
What happens in the interaction? Here's what happens. See, your mind, if your mind believes what I'm doing, will actually go in and heal it. And here's the thing I'd like to do. I'd love to see this happen. Working with somebody like that and do an x-ray immediately within minutes after I work with them. Because the lady with the spine, she did an x-ray the following day. And the wire was gone completely. So I think it happens immediately. I don't think it takes time to do it. I think it happens right immediately. So basically, not only that, working with this woman that had the stainless steel wire in her back, what was kind of neat, was as I worked with her, my back started healing. The more I worked with her, the more it healed me. Isn't that wild? So the thing is, if you look at all the different things that are out there, what is it that we're doing? What we're really doing is getting a person to believe them in themselves. That's all it is, getting them to believe in themselves. Do you believe in yourself? How many of you believe in yourself? I'll bet you if you come up here, I'll do a dialogue. I'll do a little dialogue with you. I bet you don't. Hardly anybody believes in themselves. You know, the biggest thing I found is this, and I'll do some demonstrations right now because I want to get some of those in so we have time. But anyway, I had a person come to see me, and she says, I really believe what you're talking about. And I says, you do? I checked her with muscle testing. Her mind says no. Didn't believe it. I says, you believe it consciously, subconscious mind, you don't believe it. So 10 years ago, when I work with people, I would have to go and do a dialogue with them to turn their mind around so it would accept the fact that they could be healed. I have dialogues like to do that. So anyway, what I did with them is I found out that basically what was happening is they'd been so programmed negatively in their life that they didn't believe in themselves. Isn't that kind of wild? So, does anybody want to do a little check with me and see what's going on? Well, I'll do 3 people. You back here, you here, and you here. So one of you come up first, and I'll do all 3 of you. I'll check you out. Come on up here. I'll do you second. So basically, what I'm going to do here is do a muscle check. So we'll do this way. So we're going to ask her, I can do it this way. We're going to ask her if she's basically polarity balanced. Yep, says true. Put your hand over your solar plexus. Is that true? No. So what we want to do is this process that I mentioned. If you have the using behavioral kinesiology, it's explained on the 2nd page. It explains how to do the balancing. And so what we want to do is have you balance it up.
Okay.
So when you do that, so what I want you to do is put your wrist together like this, turn them around 180 degrees. And now right in here there's a step. You push those steps together. When you hold those steps together, basically what you're doing is you're balancing the electrical field in your body. What's happening is your electrical field is balancing because the meridians are starting to balance. You'll feel that warm up. And as it warms up, what it's doing basically is running energy around the meridians, because we have 3 meridians that come to the end of these figures right here. When you put your wrists together, it connects them up. And what it does is it starts to balance. And as it starts to balance, then it heats up. Yep. This is a Tibetan Chinese process. Been around for thousands of years. And the main thing is that as it starts to balance up, like I said, it heats up. Sometimes it'll even get hot. I've seen people start perspiring on their forehead. It got so hot. And had somebody one time say, I got to take my coat off. I'm getting hot. But anyway, it takes about 5 minutes to do this. But we're going to short circuit it because we don't want to take that much time. But I tell everybody to do this every single day when you get up in the morning, or sometime meditating, watching television, whatever you're doing, do this for 5 to 10 minutes. Ideally, you should do it until the heat stops in the wrists. And when the heat stops, then basically at that point, it's balanced. It will take approximately 6 months of doing this every single day to get that balanced.
Oh, wow.
6 months. Discipline. So anyway, now that we've got that done, you'll check. So let's check. Now put your hand on the sofa. Right it. Pull it down. How much stronger is it now? So we'll ask the same question now. Is she in her body? Oh, not in your body. So what we want you to do is basically this. Would you believe this manual started out as 7 pages in 1987? It's now 390 pages, or 290, 308 pages. What I want you to do is say that right there.
This is the month, day, and the year.
No. You're not on track. Now, what does it say to do?
Oh, repeat after at least once a day for 1 week.
Okay, but what does it say? What's that?
This is month, comma, day, and year.
What's it telling you to do?
May?
Oh,
April 26th.
okay. This is April 26th, 2014. I am Dorit Gersh. Oh, wait. I am Dorit Gersh, comma, and I am in my conscious, comma, rational mind, period. I fully occupy this body.
See, this is what happens when you run your life on automatic pilot. So the thing is, now let's find out, is she in her body? Oh, she's in her body now. Now, we also want to find out is basically, is one of the things, want to find out, is there any multiple personalities here? Oh, yes there is. So how many? 5, 6, 6. So she's had 6 traumatic experiences in her life. And I can't use that one, I have to use this one. So with those 6 traumatic experiences, what's happened basically is her mind basically got, well, I'll use this one here. Her mind got taken over. The thing is, you look at her mind got taken over by these by the multiple personalities. And the way they got taken over was when you walk away, when you have a traumatic experience, you leave your body. At least mentally, you leave your body. You don't physically leave your body, but you mentally leave. And you think, I gotta hide, I gotta get away from this trauma, I gotta get away from this abuse or whatever it is. And so you go, well, I'm going to go away. And your mind says, wait a second, there's got to be somebody here running this team. This team here has got to have some sort of a manager running the program. So what it does, it goes and sets up multiple personalities. And the multiple personalities, now this is really interesting. You will give me names of these multiple personalities. Names. It's really interesting when you look at that. So basically what happens is I guess it'll work. So what we do is we ask the same question. Yeah, my pen's not working very well, so okay, thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask questions here. Now, let's say here. So you have six or seven. What's the first name? You go A-J. H to N. N to Z. Now see, you've got strong. So it shows it's just between N and Z. So we got NOP, RST. Oh, is it an R? No, it's an S. So it's an S. So your mind just told me the name is Shelley. we got to do another one here. So let's do that. See, next one, A to J. Oh, between A and J. A, B, C. D, E, F. H, I, J. So it's an H. It's an I. Now it's a J. It's Julie. So we got there with the, so right now we got, look at the next one, A to J, oh, A to J again. A, B, C, D, E, F, oh, D, E, F, so it's an E, it's an E, it's Ellen.
So where does the rest of the name come from?
A to J, oh, A to J, so it's A, B, C, D, E, F, oh, it's a D, E, F, it's an E, it's an E, it's an I. That was Francis.
Is it my subconscious liking the names, or it's just that?
Well, I'm getting hot, so I gotta take my coat off. So we got, do another one. A to J, H to N, N to Z. So it's LP, RST. So it's an R, and it's an S. It's a T. That one's Terry. One more. You got one more? A to J, H to N, N to Z. LP, RST. Okay, that one's Rosalind. So, do you have any more? So now what I want you to do, I want you to read from here to right here, out loud.
What's his name?
That's Rosalind.
Rosalind. Okay. I am asking my higher self, file and program managers to remove Shelley, Julie, Ellen, Francis, Terry, and Rosalind, multiple personalities, gatekeepers, and any programs that are operating from which are present in any way, shape, or form that have held and supported these illusions, which allowed shadow, false, disowned selves to run my life and hide and block the truth from me and my true self. I am asking my higher self, file and program managers to do a file scan and a file search through all backup files, past, present, current, future time files, denial files, history, archives files, database files, and subconscious and conscious mind, including all unmarked, mismatched files, mislabeled, untitled files, forgotten files, ghost files, neglected files, and all restricted files that have been prohibited and forbidden, distorted, aborted, damaged, locked up, or unavailable or rendered unopenable, and all recreated, reactivator, regenerator, reproducer, reconstructor, and reinstaller virus files which could reactivate and reinstall these split or multiple personalities. Put them in the trash bin. Delete, erase, and destroy all their operating instructions, records, programs, patterns, beliefs, attitudes, perceptions. Remove them from all operating systems and all file folders from conscious minds, middle self, subconscious minds, operating files. Lock them up and put them in the trash bin so they will never affect me again. I am asking you to clear and empty the trash bin, delete all files, programs, operating systems, send them for immediate disposal now. Thank you for your help. I am loving and forgiving myself now.
Now, that last statement on there is one of the most important statements in the whole thing. And so you have to look at what we did. We just released them all. And so let's put this down because we're getting ink all over the place here. So anyway, now look, is she back to true self? Is that true? So she's now back to true self. Now with what we just did, we can now begin a session. Until we do what we just did, we can't begin a session. Because we don't know who we're working on and everything else. So we could let's take a look and see who was running the program there. So who was running the program there? Terry, the second to the last one, Terry, was running the program. Isn't that kind of interesting? Well, thank you for coming up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we got 10 minutes left. So, if you look at the situation, you know, how we do it, that's the way we basically do it. We do that with every person we work with in that particular way. And that way, we know now who we're working with. But as we read, there's a lot of affirmations and dialogues in here to read. And the main thing I want to say to you is this: it may sound like what I'm doing doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But I've been doing it for 30 years with thousands of people. And if you want to read some really wild testimonials, all you got to do is read stuff that's in my book. And here's one that happened, interestingly enough, very simple one actually. A woman came to see me. She said, I flunked the California Teacher's Credential exam 6 times. I can't afford to flunk it again. She said, if I do, I'm out. You can only take it 7 times. She says, can you help me pass that exam? I said, sure. We have to find out what's blocking you from not passing the exam, because you know the work. I know that. You don't have to study. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is get the programming out that's stopping you. We found out her father told her he would never send her to college because she would never graduate. He told her, you know, you can't do that. It won't work. I'm going to waste my money. She gets married to the worst kind of a programmer, an attorney. He tells her she's no good at math. She'll never pass the test. That's programming too. He's lambasted her up one side and down the other for quite a while. She's a codependent. He is a counterdependent. He must be in control. So what happens is she comes to see me. We clear all the stuff from her father out, all the stuff from her husband out, empower her to stand up for herself. She goes and takes the exam, and I worked with her the day before the exam so I could pump her up. She passed it in 94th percentile 45 minutes before the exam was over, and she had never ever finished the exam and never passed above the 67th percentile. So it doesn't have to be pain in your body or something like that. The big pain is the emotional trauma. That's what causes the trouble. So basically, you have a question?
Are you going to work with the other, since there's 10 minutes left, are you working with the other 2 volunteers, or are you wrapping it up?
It's what?
You had asked for 3 volunteers?
Yeah, what I want to do is actually, I don't want to be like the last guy and stick into the next guy's thing, because I believe in integrity. And so if you come over to my booth, I'm in 420, and yes, we're at 453 right now. You'll come over to my booth in 420. I'll do demonstrations with you. Come over there. And I'll do some because we got till 8 o'clock tonight. And the thing is, I live in Sacramento. I do work up there, and I do work in the Bay Area. I used to have an office in Santa Clara, and but when the business kind of fell apart in 2010, I closed it up. So what I do now is I rent hotel rooms and work out of a hotel room in an area where people can get to see me. And if you look through the materials I gave you, they do have my email address, my phone number on it. And if you didn't get the behavioral kinesiology pamphlet, I'll give you one of those, because I tried to put one of those in every packet. But if you didn't get one there, you can come to the booth, pick it up, or I can pick it up. I'll go outside the door and work with you, not inside. And so anyway, my $100 bill still stays in my wallet. And so anyway, you know what I used to do, especially when I did that seminar on money, I carried 30 $100 bills around with me. 30 of them. And I'd flip them out like a deck of cards. You ever heard of Joel Bauer? Anybody? Well, I work with Joel, and Joel used to do the same thing. And so I learned about doing it with him. So what I did is I would go and flip those $3,100 bills up, and I said, here's $3,000. I said, if there's 30 people in the room that are entitled to money? Nobody. So it's not that it's not bad about not being entitled. You were programmed by your parents. Your parents said, money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have any money. Don't ask for money. And what happens, you grow up not believing you're entitled to money. It's crazy. In this book here, there's 5 or 6 affirmations about money. And basically, one of the things I tell people, this is the wildest thing I ever ran into. What happens is, I will demonstrate with people at lectures. I've been doing shows like this since 1982. And less than 10% of the people, that was a quick 5 minutes. That's all right, though. We'll go. Anyway, I have less than 10% of the people come to see me to do a session. Isn't that go well? I got the answer. Do you want it? Come and see me over at the booth. And I will be around to do sessions with people next week. Okay, thanks for coming.